In the crisis communication plan, these are the questions that we want to ask. You want to ask, was it prompt? And so when you think about this, think about if you have a communications plan in place and you want to practice it, right? Because that's a real important part of any emergency response or disaster response scenario is that you've practiced the incident that occurs, okay? And so we want to ask, did we respond quickly, right? So when something happened, were we able to act and get to a safe place, to control the environment, to take the information we need to continue operating? Were we informative? Did we address the basic information needs for both your internal stakeholders, okay, and those external agents, right? Media, the responders, your community, neighbors, etc. And then, was it sincere, okay? We all, when we have like an emergency or a disruption, it can tend to get very shocking and become very emergent or an urgent environment. And so this is where sincerity really carries the load for you. Okay, so if you can communicate with humanity, obviously with the COVID situation, it takes a lot of empathy to communicate to your employees that you're unable to continue operating in the same capacity. So that same mentality can be applied to any interruption in your business. Okay, so having sincerity and humanity and empathy is really going to help you get the support from all those stakeholders. And then, were you honest, right? So if you follow companies and when things happen and things go bad in companies, you can always tell that the good companies are the ones that are honest about it. They call a mistake, they call it, and then they go to work fixing it, right? And so you have to be honest. You have to be clear in explaining what happened to your stakeholders. And you also have to have an idea of what you're going to do next, okay? And so as a small business owner, you're driven by, that pride in your business. And so you really have to think about, okay, well, what's going to happen next? How am I going to, continue to support and manage my employees, to keep messages and communications to the publics on point and all of that. And so being honest will really help you to communicate more clearly to all of those stakeholders. And then finally, being humble, okay? If the problem was because of something that happened inside the company, then as the owner of the company, take responsibility for it. I'm responsible. This is what happened. The business was interrupted due to this accident or this problem or this weather-related event or this, whatever happened, this fault. And so own that, okay? That's going to get more people to support your cause and to help at least communicate that you're responsible. So at this point, we want to take a peer-to-peer breakout section for about 10 minutes. And then when we come back, we're going to have a couple minutes before a guest presenter. And so we're going to take about 10 minutes in a group, and these are the questions that we want you to discuss in your group. What are the necessary considerations in your crisis communication plan? So what do you think are the most important things that you should consider when, as an interruption to your business going forward? And also, do you feel that your crisis response would satisfy those 5 requirements of prompt, informative, sincere, honest, and humble? And what is the chain of command for your organization, both internal and external, okay? And do your stakeholders know it, right? Do you have lines of communications to the publics, to media, to different agencies? And do your stakeholders know that chain of command is in place? So let's spend about 10 minutes talking about these as topics, and then we'll come back and hopefully that'll be enlightening for the participants. That was really interesting. In my group, I got to have a discussion with a couple of business owners, very different companies, but they were both working in wage-related work and in labor. So it was kind of an interesting discussion to think about how an organization that handles all of the paperwork and the administration for companies, who's a one-person show, would handle this type of environment of a business disruption. versus a person who's running a good dozen people and field workers and in a construction environment. So I thought that was really interesting, just the differences. And every company is going to have different necessary tools and things to think about for their own application for their business.